Well, thank you very much, and welcome to Where Are They Now? And as we've been previewing and discussing for the last 2 hours, former Cowboy standout, Mound standout, and a 9-year Major League veteran, and the first time in, how many years, Lions? Maybe 12, 13, 14 years that we've known each other that I've used the word former big leaguer. But you are...
I'm not used to that yet. It's still, you said it, and it's just kind of like, wait, that's me, yeah. Oh, man.
Just a recent decision, right? Tyler Lyons decided to retire from the game after, as I said, 9 years in the bigs.
Yeah, I guess probably going on 2-3 weeks now. I went to spring training, did the whole spring training thing. I kind of went in all in on that, and had hopes to make the team out of camp. And when I found out I wasn't, I didn't really have it in me to go play minor league baseball anymore. The logistics of it were just getting harder and harder. I had just had a third kid, and so to move my family to Scranton, Pennsylvania, and not even to play baseball, it was to go to the alternate site. It was just like, man, I don't think we have it in us to kind of make this move. And so let's just go home and see what the next chapter looks like.
I mentioned to you the other day, you guys continually make me feel old, but you're the second guy in the last month or so that I've had on, Ty Wright being the other guy who stepped out of the game, has retired from the game of baseball. This from a coaching angle, but played a lot of years in the minor leagues. You guys are starting to retire, and that's not right. I mean, I'm old enough. Don't make me feel any older, okay?
Yeah, that should make you feel a little
Thank
old.
you very much.
Ty and I were there like a decade and a half ago now. So, I mean, at this point, yeah.
You have to remind me of that, or what? I mean,
yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, well, it is fun. I mean, that you haven't changed along that line at all. We've always kind of thrown it back at each other. As you look at, and I asked you this, I just always jump to the conclusions because Ty is coaching high school ball in Tyler, Texas, and I made the leap. Well, Lyons going to go in and coach. Well, you told me that's not necessarily true.
I don't know that right now, especially, at least not anytime soon, that it's something I want to do. Now there may come a time where it's like, all right, I'm kind of ready to jump back into that. I think there's some factors into that. I know for a fact, unlike Ty, I have no desire to coach anyway professionally. When I told Brian Cashman, the GM, when I was going to leave, he's asking, would you have any interest in coaching or this or that? No, if I wanted to travel to spring training and then go live somewhere for 5 or 6 months and then go home, I'd keep playing. But I think so from a professional standpoint, I have no desire to coach. I think college would be interesting to me, but again, I like where I live now. There's no colleges around where I live, and I'm not interested in moving right now. So it's kind of one of those things that maybe as time goes by and I get away from it a little bit more, maybe there'll be a little more interest, but not yet.
Of course, you're living in the North Dallas. I say North Dallas. It's not North Dallas literally, but it's pretty close, right?
The Dallas suburbs. I'm in Prosper.
Okay.
It's probably 45 minutes from downtown Dallas up north.
And you got a backyard. I know you can have a beverage. You can smoke some burgers or whatever it is you got going on there, right?
I got steaks going right now. But yeah.
Gee, I should figure somebody of your elite status would have steaks.
Oh yeah,
and not burgers.
Yeah. Well, actually, we did burgers last night. It just happened to be the day of the week. What is it? It's Wednesday.
You become the chef, huh?
Yeah.
You're into real estate a little bit, right? I mean, is that where you're headed, or at least at this point, does it look that way?
I think it's something I'm entertaining the idea of. I've actually been taking my real estate license just kind of to give me something to do during the day right now. I don't know if I'm going to go that route or not, but I've met with some people, and it seems to be an option out there. Something I've always kind of been interested. I think I'd like to do something more on the commercial side of things, like commercial real estate. But again, I'm not in any hurry to jump into anything, so I'm kind of taking my time and trying to, see what's out there.
You kind of gave us a hint last year when we had you on, and I think we had you on as you were headed to Scranton, I believe.
I was at Scranton, unfortunately.
And, you kind of hinted then that, I'm paraphrasing, but maybe I don't have the energy anymore to do this. But you weren't as conclusive as you have been this year. And everybody has second thoughts. I mean, you probably will have some second thoughts before everything's said and done. But it hasn't hit yet, right? That you're not on somebody's roster right now.
Not yet, because I've enjoyed the, I don't know, for lack of a better word, like just the lack of anxiety that I've had right now, and like not that everyday grind that kind of goes into it, especially during a big league season. I do think there will get a time where like it's like, man, all right, I think I'll have a more appreciation for it and how great it really was. I think that I'll miss, more than anything, just hanging out in the clubhouse and being around guys during the day, and like that was kind of what my job was. So I think probably whenever I transition into something else and I don't go to the field, or the clubhouse at 1:00 and I'm going somewhere at 8:00 in the morning, and I'm sitting in an office and not in the clubhouse playing cards and hanging out, just doing whatever we want. I think it'll kind of set in a little bit more, but you spoke about the energy and the effort. And I maybe at that time, especially being an alternate type man, I just didn't have that same drive being there. And I knew that kind of going in this year, if I didn't make the team, I would be kind of in that same situation. And this game, you can't really be halfway in. And so I knew that if I wasn't on the team and I wasn't fully invested, there's no point in going.
Take us behind the scenes a little bit. What's the conversation with Cashman? How does that sound like when you've already decided? You go to him and say, okay, I'm done. I'm just not gonna. I'm just gonna hang him up.
Yeah. So I mean, I kind of we knew it was getting right there to the end of spring training, and the writing was kind of on the wall at that point. You kind of knew who was making it, even though they hadn't told me I wasn't making it. It's like, okay, there's not really room. I mean, they're in the bullpen, and so. They're kind of telling me like, all right, well, we're going to send you to Scranton. Obviously, anything can change at any time. Kind of giving me the whole spiel, and I don't want to say I cut him off, because I didn't cut him off, and I didn't mean it like any disrespectful way. I was like, we don't really need to like do this whole like song and dance. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just like I'm not going to Scranton. Like I'm going to call it a career and go home, but I just don't have it in me to go. And they're kind of, oh, all right, and like, maybe taken back a little bit, but then it quickly turned into more of a like, well, congratulations, like you had a great career, good for you, like what are you doing next? And sat there, talked to them for a little while, and but it was good. It went well.
Patrick and I had this conversation during the last couple hours, and and he certainly said, ask him about this, and I think it's a great question. The three-man rule now that you got to face three batters. You can't just come in and be a lefty-lefty matchup, get the guy out and be pulled out and replaced by a right-hander anymore. Did that hasten your career decision that, I'm not a specialist, and maybe I'm not a three-batter guy?
Yeah, I hate that rule. No, it's I will say I do not like that rule from what it, how it did affect my career, but I also don't like it from a rule for baseball as a whole. I think it kind of takes away from the strategic chess match between managers and the hitter and pitcher and everything else. But as far as it affecting my decision, I do think it played a factor. I kind of touched on it with you earlier. If that rule wasn't in effect and I wasn't going to make the team, I think I would have been like, man, like, ride out the season, see what happens. In 2019, I got over to the Yankees in late August, was in the big leagues in September, and found myself pitching in the playoffs because you could kind of carve out a little role or a niche. And I always had a pretty good, track record with lefties. And like, okay, like you found a role, and that's what you play for, is playing the playoffs. And even last year with the alternate site, and how last year was the first year they had the three-batter minimum in play. They were very blatant in saying, like, it's just with the whole rule change, it just kind of affects the way we construct our roster. Like, they weren't trying to hide it and say, like, oh, no, it doesn't affect you. Like, they essentially said, yeah, it kind of does affect you. Doesn't mean that you're on the outside and you can't get in, but it definitely had an effect. And so I told my wife that, at the end of spring training, I said, I think if this rule wasn't in place, like, I would be more inclined to like grind out this season and kind of see if I can pitch my way, into pitching into the year to the playoffs. And knowing that I had the ability to get lefties out, but with it in place, it just kind of stacked the deck against me. That it made it a little easier for me to say, all right, it's just time to go.
From an X and O viewpoint, you're not a fan of it either, right? Just from just a grand big picture look.
I'm not. I think it takes away from like the beauty of the matchups, and like, they said they were doing it to speed up the game, but I don't think it really sped up the game. I don't think times were really any different last year. Maybe in the playoffs, it probably, playoff games can get a little long, but I think from a fan's viewpoint, like, they don't care that playoff games get long. Like, it's every pitch in the playoffs seemingly is very crucial, and so the matchup side of that is kind of out the door now. I mean, you can do it to an extent, but not the way that it used to be done, and so I don't like it, even taking me personally out of it.
You look at your career, and it was that way here at Oklahoma State as well. And you're still on a lot of the top 10 list, which you're probably not aware of. But your 41 career starts. I think that's sixth best in school history. 22 career wins. That's tied for 10th. All these years later now, Lyons, I might add. 266 career strikeouts. That's fifth in school history. You pitched 308 innings. All these things you probably don't even know.
You're right. I had no idea.
Which is fourth best
over here. Like, man, I should still be playing.
I mean, yeah. I'm trying to fire you up to go out there and coach some little league team or something. And then 12 wins in 2008. That was the eighth best in school history in 1 year. So you certainly show what you could do both as a reliever and a starter. But a lot of people, we talked about this relief stuff. You don't. I mean, I don't have to convince you, but golly, you started 20 games for the Cardinals early in your career.
Yeah, I sure wish I was a starter my entire career. They got a way better life than a reliever, that's for sure. Unfortunately, I should just pitch better or something, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, as a starter, I wish I could have gotten a little more opportunity. I think that in 2016, right before I got hurt with a knee injury, we were really struggling with starters, that I might have been able to get my chance. And then it was like right about that time, like, to go back into starting, like, I was out for the rest of that season with the knee injury. It's like, oh, that was it. That was the whole reason I wasn't a starter the rest of my career.
And the numbers show that you were pretty consistent, either as a starter or a reliever for sure. A lot of people don't know this. You do. I'm going to take you way back. And people can say, at Oklahoma State, no. Is that a bird in your backyard? I mean, is that what we got going on in the back?
Did you hear a bird?
Yeah. Oh, maybe it's a bird in here. Maybe it's in here.
I'm looking at like a red bird right now, but I didn't think I heard anything.
Tell that bird to be quiet while we're talking, will you please?
Okay.
All right. A lot of people don't realize you actually threw a no-hitter in the minor leagues. The Palm Beach Cardinals, right?
That's right.
Now, we're going back like 50 years ago, but still, I mean, it's there. A lot of people don't throw no-hitters is what I'm trying to get around to.
2011 is like 10 years ago.
Okay,
same difference, but I vividly remember that night. I must say, and I hate to discredit it because a no-hitter is a no-hitter, but it was a 7-inning no-hitter because it was the backside of a doubleheader. Well,
you'll fit right in. That would have fit right in this year. That's what they do in the major league.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, you get credit for a complete game or a no-hitter. So, I mean, it was. Maybe a tiny asterisk on the side of that, but I mean, I probably would have got the next 6 guys out anyways.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, in my defense, I did face that same team the next time, and I didn't give up a hit till the third. So it kind of was like, it was a no hitter. But yeah, it is funny you go back that far because like that does seem like forever ago to me even.
Well. It really wasn't. I just like to give you a hard time. As you look at your career, and I know this is always an obligatory question, and I tried to prep you the other day so you had some time to think about it. A highlight or two from your major league career that you'll always remember?
Yeah, I think it's a kind of an easy answer, probably for a lot of people, to say their debut. I think there's certain feelings in that debut that like you've never felt before in my life and probably never feel again. It's almost like kind of having when I had a kid, like for the first time. It's just something different or unexplainable. And so I think the debut, but the debut also kind of has a little more on it that I mean, I had one of my best starts. I went 7 innings, 1 run. Like, it couldn't have drawn it up any better. I think the debut for a lot of people is going to be, right up there.
Who was it against?
Just San Diego Padres
in
San Diego. It's just, like I said, there's just these feelings of this. I mean, you wait your whole life for this, and like so many times you probably think like this is never going to come, and then so for it to come and get to experience it, but then also pitch very well in it is also a nice thing. That's my piece of monster. I think other than that, I mean, in 2015 I pitched. It was actually my last start as a starter, but I pitched a game in September in Pittsburgh, and it was to clinch the NLCS, the NL, like the National League Central Division Championship. Mm-hmm. And so that always kind of stick out to me because I mean, it's one of those things like, celebrating and popping bottles afterwards. And, I pitched very well in that game too. And so I think just kind of adding what that game signified was another thing that'll kind of make it hard for me to, have moments that were bigger than that one. And any time in the playoffs. I mean, the playoffs are what it's all about. And the 2019 run with the Yankees and like kind of experiencing New York as a whole and doing it in the playoffs, like I felt like such a New Yorker riding the train in and going to the game and leaving out on the train. It's just, I would say those are probably 3 of the most significant things that I'll take from my playing career.
You just jumped ahead. We've done these things so long, you just took my question away because I was going to ask you what it was like in New York. But since you stole my question, I'll have to come up with another one.
Well, I will say this. So like, in my 3 weeks of just speaking on New York, in my 3 weeks of being done, like, I've actually watched some baseball. I've watched the Cardinals. I've seen the Yankee games, whatever. The times I've like, oh, man, like what I miss is like that last of 2019 playing in New York. I lived in the city, took the train to the stadium and all that good stuff. So when I see New York City on just like in a movie or a TV show, that's when I'm like, I miss that feeling of being there in New York. Like I think that I was very lucky to play for 2 very storied franchises, obviously the Cardinals and then the Yankees. But there was just something different about playing in New York that like, and I played in New York so many times, like playing the Mets or whatever, but there was something different playing at home in the Bronx and putting on a pinstripe uniform. Like it was pretty special.
And that's when they could have fans, which is a little different now too, since they don't have it. I got to ask you this too, from a pitcher's perspective. There aren't still too many Tyler Lyons around. I mean, are you even looked at in the pros unless you can throw it 98, 99 miles an hour? I mean, everybody who's out there throws it that much.
I think I will say that I'm very glad that my career played out when it did and ended when it did, because I do think, I mean, it's just getting harder and harder, especially being a relief pitcher, to throw 89 miles an hour from the left side. Luckily, I was left-handed. Right-handers, it's almost non-existent because you're right. Every single guy, I mean, an average throwing fastball now is like 94, and that's kind of slow for the bullpen. It's like you better have something elite other than that. It's incredible where the game's gone with the amount of power, arms, and guys I played with just through the years. Same thing. I played with a guy named Dan Otero last year that played for like 9 years in the big leagues. Very successful career, but he was a right-handed 88, 89 mile an hour sinker baller, and he was like, "Man, I'm so glad my career's ending this year." Like, versus just getting into pro ball, because there's just not a spot in that game. Like, they want high velocity and lots of strikeouts, and if you don't do that, it's not to say you can't get there, but you are definitely fighting an uphill battle. I mean, they want other people to do better than you.
Well, tell us about your family here before we cut you loose. That's the main thing. Tell us what's going on there.
Main thing. Oh, man. So I got, like I said, I just had a third kid. He is a boy. He's probably 3 months old, give or take. The other ones, I got a girl that is 3 and then a 1.5-year-old girl. So right now they're all at home. We cannot get them in daycare. It's all too full or whatever. We're on wait list.
Mm-hmm.
And I have the utmost respect for any stay-at-home parent because it is exhausting.
Yes.
It is really fun, but all I do is cook, clean up their next mess, cook the next meal, clean up that meal, clean up their next mess. It's just like a never-ending cycle, but it's fun. It's just any parent, and that's me and my wife both being home right now. So anyone that can handle that by themselves is like, good for you. I'm very impressed.
With both of you at home, has your wife put her name in the portal yet, so she could move out?
Yeah, she's probably getting pretty close. It's like actually, I will say, she's probably, like, as much as I probably can annoy her during the day or whatever.
You can? I bet you can,
She's probably thankful that we're not in Scranton, Pennsylvania in like a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment where she's taking care of all 3 by herself.
Oh, geez.
I will say, so as much as I may or may not annoy her or complain or do whatever, I'm sure from a perspective standpoint, she is glad to be back home in Texas and help with kids. So I think she's got to be pretty happy with that, I think. I mean, it could have been a lot worse. Like I said, we could be in Scranton and she could be doing all the work by herself in a little bitty apartment or something.
See, you always have such a good way of looking at things, right? Now,
all about perspective.
She might not have the same perspective. However, we will leave her out of this. And
you're asking me, so I get to give my perspective.
That's good. Hey, it is always good to catch up, as we always do. Still a little hard for me to be thinking, well, I'll call Lyons in about a month and find out what's going on. I saw you on TV and you came in against Detroit and blah, blah, blah. But I guess that's going to be hard for me to get used to as well.
I know. See, now that you say it like that, now I'm feeling sad.
Well, I didn't want to make you feel sad. I mean, you still got those steaks to go eat, so that'll make you happy.
That's true. That is true. You're right.
Well, don't screw them up while you're at it, and
I won't.
And don't get in any trouble at home. I mean, just don't annoy. I mean,
if I have to get out of her hair, I'll go to the golf course for a little bit.
Oh yeah, like somebody have to bend your arm. Somebody have to pull you out of the house. I'm sure.
Yeah.
All right, big man.
Anyway, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. It's always good to catch up.
Yeah, it is. It always is. We'll do it again. See what's going on with Tyler Lyons here in a couple of months. See if he's liking this thing. But appreciate it, buddy. You had a great career.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
See ya.
Bye. Tyler Lyons, good guy.